All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of our second Distance Learning Leadership Summit, brought to you by Santa Cruz County Office of Education, TICAL, Google for Education, Q, and CDWG. This has been a whirlwind event, started yesterday, but it's been months in the planning. Thanks to our planning team. I do want to introduce everyone. My name is Jason Borgen. I am the Chief Technology Officer for the Santa Cruz County Office of Education. And my partner in crime is Stephanie Sumarna. Stephanie?
Awesome. Thanks, Jason. Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 2. My name's Stephanie. I'm the distance learning teacher on special assignment at the Santa Cruz COE, and I'm going to pass it over to Joe.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here for a phenomenal day of learning. My name is Joe Marquez. I am the Director of Academic Innovation for Q, and we are super excited that you are here.
And TD, we couldn't put this on without TD, Thomas Dixon.
Morning, everybody. Great to be here.
From Google, and Mr. Jeff Mitchell from CDWG. And Jeff looks like he's on mute or audio, not going through, but Ari can welcome us.
Sorry, guys.
Oh, there you go. Perfect. Go ahead, Jeff.
There it goes. Hey, guys. Jeff Mitchell, K-12 technology consultant out here in the Bay Area, supporting all of our K-12 school districts. Thanks for joining, everybody.
And Ari.
Good morning, everyone. I'm a CDWG education strategist, which is kind of like Stephanie's role, but working with CDW and all of you. Happy to be here.
All right, thank you, team. And this team has met almost on a weekly basis for the past couple months to develop this summit for educational leaders across California and beyond, of course, focusing on Santa Cruz County. And I do want to welcome our Associate Superintendent from Santa Cruz County, Miss Debbie Bodenheimer.
Thank you, Jason, and thank you, team, and absolutely phenomenal effort and tons of hard work have gone into making this day, these 2 days actually. So I just want to express my gratitude and say thank you to people for taking time out of your busy schedule and getting ready for, holidays coming up, but to continue that learning for students. The students deserve the best that we can give them. And by having people like you attending summits and conferences to really further your learning, you're really showing your dedication and your commitment to our students. And so I'm really grateful to that. And I hope you have a wonderful day. And I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday as well. So thank you again for being here.
Thanks, Debbie. And, we are thankful, and this is the week of giving thanks, thankful for everyone who's part of this summit, not only the presenters and the moderators, but also the participants. I know we all have Zoom fatigue, and you guys are still here to continue the learning and continue trying to innovate. And that's what today is all about, is change. We've been in emergency mode the past 7-8 months trying to pivot and utilize distance learning strategically to ensure our essential work gets to the students specifically. But today's to reach out a little bit farther, to try to consider this an opportunity to reform our educational mindsets and our educational processes. And so it's really about changing the practice that we normally think about traditional education. And so with that, part of that is using technology, but using technology is just a tool. It's really about helping students raise awareness, starting conversations, collaboration, and truly making a difference for our society. We want our next generation of students to develop the vaccine for the next pandemic. Hopefully we don't see that in our lifetime, but again, we want them to be part of this change. Last week, you probably saw SpaceX. I don't know if anybody saw that rocket launch from SpaceX, but it was a great, great shift in our space program, both the private and public space program and a partnership. And so we want our students to go up in space. And how do we develop these opportunities for the students to be the innovators? And it really starts with the leaders and you. And so with that, I do have a poll to provide to see what are you doing to innovate, or what are you looking into your innovation practices over the coming months? So this is a quick poll to asking you, what practices are you looking to do in the coming months around innovation? And so these are just a few ideas or thoughts. And if there's something not here, go ahead and click other and type in the chat. What are some things you're going to be doing around innovative practices you want to really focus on in the next coming months? And I know a lot of people are looking at the idea of roomers and zoomers. If Los Gatos Union School District is in the audience today, I know they're looking at the idea of roomers and zoomers, where students are in the room at the same time face to face, and folks are zooming in at the same time with streaming cameras. And so is that creating a hybrid model? Increasing outdoor education to keep students safe at a distance. What are some things you're really focusing on in the coming months to truly innovate in your role as a leader? And so we're quickly seeing some of the results come in, and developing strategies for student parent engagement. That's what all yesterday was about. We'll spend another 10 seconds or so for you to respond to this poll. And if something's not on this list, feel free to type in the chat. What other things are not on this list that you're going to consider around innovation and innovating as a leader? Yeah, you have to be very selective, Jim, and pick the one that you feel most strongly about. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and end poll, and we'll just share the results quickly. And you can see where everybody is really focusing on. You can see 14 folks said develop strategies for student parent engagement, and even some develop more project-based authentic learning. And hopefully you'll get some of these strategies and ideas as you go through today's breakout sessions. So thank you all for participating in the poll. And really today's all about you and being able to strategically utilize the tools to build your own capacity and your staff's capacity to truly innovate in our current paradigm. And so with that, again, this event couldn't happen without our partners. So I do want to welcome our partners from CUE right now, Mr. Joe Marquez.
Well, thank you so much, Jason. Thank you again for having us into your homes and into your hearts for just the betterment of learning for your students. And I just want to say, you know, CUE is an organization that's been around for over 40 years, and CUE changed my life for the better. And I know that if you're a member of CUE or if you are a potential member of CUE, it can change your life as well. So I'm going to be pasting a few links in the chat. So if you'd like to become a member, it is 100% free. We have customized professional learning that we can come straight to your district or county office. And we have an amazing event called Spring CUE coming up on March 18th. So I'm going to be pasting those into the chat, but we love each and every one of you. And thank you so much for taking your morning and maybe even the morning on your Thanksgiving week to learn and become the best you can possibly be. And I'm going to pass it on over to one of my best buddies, Jeff from CDWG.
Hey, everybody. I'll come off mute again. Jeff from CDW. Appreciate everyone joining today. It's been a lot of work. I've been working with Jason and the team. Thank you for the kind introduction, Joe. So good to see you thriving over at CUE. Appreciate everyone's time today. Appreciate everyone joining us. I know it's a really busy week with the holiday. We had the site conference last week. I'm sure a lot of us are zoomed out, but appreciate you guys taking the time today. We're going to have a couple great sessions led by two of our team members, both Ari Flewelling and Maureen Corlett, focused around hybrid learning strategies and professional development. So really excited to provide that to you guys, and hopefully we get some people joining the sessions. Looking forward to seeing everybody today. Thanks again, and over to Ari.
Hey, yeah, thanks for the intro, Jeff. And definitely excited to see some of you. I saw in the poll some of you were interested in professional development, so hopefully I'll see you in my session later today. And just excited to be here and to speak with district leaders about all the great things that you're doing and to hopefully provide you with some ideas moving forward. So thanks again. And let's see, I believe I'm passing it off to TD.
Thanks, Ari. Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm TD, or Tom Dixon from Google for Education. I work with a lot of school districts up and down California, where I'm also just over around the corner in SoCal, right next door to Santa Cruz, and just really excited to be a part of this event. This has been a lot of work for a lot of folks for a couple months now, and we're so glad that folks are seeing value in this and that people are looking for support right now. We've got amazing sessions throughout the day, and I'm really excited that today's focus on innovation, which is kind of now that we're out of emergency mode, as Jason was saying, it's time to start thinking about what can be different, what have we learned, and how can we change the future. So incredibly excited to be here today. Thank you to everyone for being here, and I'll pass it over to Roland over at TICAL. Roland, all you.
Thank you. I'm Roland Baker, Executive Director of the TICAL project. TICAL was funded from the Department of Education for 15, 16 years here to help getting professional development out to school administrators. We are now housed at the Santa Cruz County Office of Education and continue that great outreach. Today, those of you that are on board, we guaranteed you're going to come out of this webinar with resources and excitement and new items. We're going to start that right now. We're going to share with you 2 resources that TICAL has put together. The first one, if you go to our website, tical.org, you're going to find the link to a live binder that people from all over the US help contribute with the theme of what do we need to get remote learning right for school leadership. And go there and check it out. There's resources for parents, there's resources for teachers. It's a great thing. We've had over, I think, close to 700 people in there using the items almost daily. The second thing that we have is in response to our summit last June is a Facebook group that is going on for school leadership that we would really encourage you to join. Susan Brooks Young posted that in the chat just a minute ago, because last time when we got done with our summit, everyone said, we want to keep this going. We want to keep the discussions going. How can we do this? So we set up a social media page called Getting Remote Learning Right. It's a closed group, so you have complete confidence that nothing you say is going to be out there in the press. And those of us that are practicing administrators have a great way to help support each other. So thank you and enjoy the day.
Thanks, Roland. Let's get the conversations going all year long and not just these 2 days only. And this is an opportunity to really engage in conversation with your peers around distance learning for educational leaders. And so with that, let's talk about today, what's happening, because today is all about innovation. And I do want to put this quote out here. I'm not sure if you guys seen this book, The Innovator's Mindset by George Couros, but I thought this is a wonderful quote that he brought forward. If we want to do better things for students, we want to become the guinea pigs and immerse ourselves in new learning opportunities to understand how to create the necessary changes. We rarely create something different until we experience something different. And so it's all about you today and you experiencing something different and trying new things. And it's okay to take the risks and fail, because that's what innovation is about. Just a little nugget from the innovator's mindset. And as we move forward, it's been a twisty turn until 2021, but we're almost there. And so with that, hopefully the next 3 hours or so is going to immerse you into innovative practices to change things in 2021. So let's talk about what's happening today around innovation. So Stephanie?
Great, thanks, Jason. Yeah, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the logistics of the next 3 hours. So today's focus is all around innovation, like Jason said. So we're starting with our kick note, which we'll get started in just a moment. And then after that, we have 2 breakout sessions. They start at 9:50 and 10:40, and all the sessions repeat. So if there's something that you want to see and you're torn, you can go to the first one the first time and go to your other choice the second time. So once again, the sessions are at 9:50 and 10:40, and all the sessions repeat. At the end of the day, we have a chance to come back together. So Roland talked about creating that community of practice and sharing with other educators. So we have a chance at the end of the day for chat-abouts for you to connect with other like-minded educators and share your learnings and your next steps from the day. If at any point you get stuck, there is a help desk that you can go back to, and we can help you to get to the right place. All this information is housed on our website, leadership.santacruzcoe.org. And at the very top, there is a drop-down menu that says schedule. And if you click on November 24th, innovation, that will give you all the session titles, descriptions, and links for today so that you can go there and navigate to whatever session you choose. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it back over to Jason.
Thank you, Stephanie. Now the moment you all been waiting for. My dear friend and colleague, who I've known for many, many years, is going to do an inspirational presentation for all you. Pam Gildersleeve Hernandez is the executive director of CUE for the past 2 years. Prior to that, CUE is a 28,000 member organization, primarily focused in California, but supporting educators worldwide. Pam is former superintendent principal of a school district in the Paso Robles area. And prior to that, worked at San Luis Obispo County Office of Education, and way back when was also focused in special education as well. So without any further ado, let's welcome Pam Hernandez.
Thank you, Jason, for that wonderful introduction. I am Pam Gildersleeve Hernandez, and we are in a moment where we have the opportunity to seize the power of where we are during this time of crisis, to lead with innovation. And while what we are surrounded by is tragic and it is awful, it is moments like this that create structural breaks in society that allow us to create change in systems that may no longer be relevant. So over the next 25, 30 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about what is a structural break in society? What does it mean? And what type of opportunities does this open for us? What about the stress that it causes? What about the stress that we've been feeling for these last 8 months and going into the rest of this year as we realize we can't just live in this place of emergency response, but also need to engage with the impact of this time and this extreme increase in the use of technology and digitization and education, and make sure that we're still around in 3, 5, 10 years next year to lead this work. And that's where we'll be looking at, how do we lead for what's next? What do we need to be doing? How do we need to be thinking? Because this past year, it came crumbling down on us. Back at the beginning of March, we started hearing about this thing, and maybe some of us in February, this coronavirus thing. And, I remember going to a conference up in Sacramento with the Small School Districts Association. And at that time, people were already starting to do the corona bump. Maybe we won't shake hands. I don't want to get that virus. And here at CUE, we were talking about, gosh, we have this big event coming up in Palm Springs, and we're planning on having 5,000 people get together. And do we do hand sanitizers? How do we keep the CUE spirit alive, the fun? How do we make sure that people stay physically distant? Are we still getting together? And we thought we were on March 2nd. On March 13th, we all know that things changed incredibly for us, not just here in the state of California, across the United States and around the world. And we took, within a 2 weeks time period, because that March 2nd date was really important to us, like maybe we need to spin up plan B, and took a 5,000 in-person event and went virtual. And this is what it felt like, this picture that you see right here. And then we watched teachers and education systems within our schools and our districts start to adapt in the same way. That feeling of crumbling down that happened right away, we watched people also start to build back up. And what we experienced at that moment and what we're living in right now is part of what's referred to as a structural break in society. And we have a structural break in our education system right now. And what that means is that there has been an unexpected event that has made the current system that we're in no longer relevant. And we're about to see another slide that goes with that as well. So we need to be mindful of unexpected changes, which result in unreliability in the system that we've been so used to, and just turns upside down the results and the outcomes that we're expecting to achieve. And there's this call to action to change very, very rapidly. And what we know is that when we're in a system in crisis, We're in a system that is not relevant. The system has seen its time. And we had an inkling of this before COVID. We knew there was this underlying current. There's about 20% of educators on that bell curve that were pushing the boundaries of technology. And that was that teacher, that administrator on site, that people were like, oh yeah, they're doing cool stuff over there. But you don't have to do it, right? A common interview question as an administrator is, so, how do you work with those teachers that are not quite ready yet for technology? We've been asking that question for 20 years. And what we now know is if as a teacher, as an administrator, I'm not ready to engage with and use technology, I'm not going to be relevant in the education system the way it is right now and the way it is going to be when we return after this COVID pandemic is over and we're allowed to go back into more traditional brick and mortar structures. So change can happen slow. Change can happen fast. When we take a look at this chart from McKinsey, we see the difference between some expected changes and what the time actually took. So if an organization wanted to go into a remote working environment and have that digital collaboration by choice, it'd be expected that it would take about 1.5 years for that to happen with intention. What we saw as a result of this pandemic, that it took about 2 weeks for organizations to make that shift. We saw the impact that it had in the way we shop, in the way that we use technology for our day-to-day operations, and the very, very quick change that technology made to the way we make decisions. And when we look at customers in this chart, we take a look at our students and how quickly they adapted to using the technology, our parents and how quickly they adapted to using the technology, and also being mindful that within the structures that are no longer relevant, that were just lying below the surface, we found what we all know now is the great inequities of access and tools, and how that is continuing to stand up an opportunity gap that impacts student achievement across subgroups, not just in our state, not just in our country, but worldwide. And we have now been called as a society to close those inequities and understand that they are the result of the achievement gap. And we need to respond to this in this moment with this opportunity that we have right now. So taking a look at some research from EdWeek, teachers respond. Since schools closed, my ability to use education technology has improved. 87% of teachers responded yes to this question, whether it's a little bit or a lot. We went from pulling teeth in some cases at those staff meetings, trying to get people to engage, to seeing a dramatic increase in our teachers' skills to use technology effectively to enhance and accelerate instruction and thus student achievement, irregardless of the stories that we hear about where broadband isn't accessible, the frustrations, the troubleshooting. We are seeing growth. And as a result of that increased use of technology during the coronavirus, we see that 78% of teachers are saying, and did I do my math right? That's 58% of teachers are saying, feeling more positive about the use of technology to support instruction. That 25% that where we see no change, those were our innovators. That 20 to 25% on the end of the bell curve, our early adopters, our innovators, our early adopters, who have been leading the professional development and the learning while also teaching their classes, leading their schools, and leading their districts. And when schools reopen, like really reopen, students increase levels of access to one-to-one computing, one device per one student. Will that increase high quality teaching and learning? Will that make it easier? We're seeing that 73% of teachers are now saying yes. When we return to what we think of as the traditional classroom, because that will not exist the way it did before COVID any longer. The vast majority, those folks in the middle of the bell curve, are saying, yes, it's going to be a lot easier. That 22%, that no impact, those are our folks that were our early adopters, the ones that were already doing it. But take a look at the numbers. 96% of teachers know that using technology to increase student achievement, enhancing learning, is going to be a lot easier. And then we still have those little outliers at the end. God bless them. We're going to support them. But we know education has changed forever. So here's some research for the Center of Democracy. It finds that even parents are saying that when we return to school, they are in support of seeing increased online learning opportunities. Because if a child is sick, sending home a textbook and answering questions at the end of the chapter or packet of papers is no longer going to be acceptable. We will need to engage with our students in a digital manner and allow them to continue to have access to the classroom, to collaboration, to the tools. If a student goes out on independent study, that packet is no longer okay. We now know how to stand up online and distance learning and to engage them in a relevant and meaningful educational experience, no matter where they are and what their circumstances are outside of broadband access. But all of this, for those of us who are teaching, who are leading, causes a great deal of anxiety. There is stress. As we switched over our event from Spring Q, from that in-person event where we knew what we were doing, to going virtual in such a short time frame, not knowing where the pain points would be. There was a moment where we thought we had made our way around a filter, around some sites that were blocking us. We thought we had broadband access in place. Fortunately, we also had a backup video. We had plans A and B. But I know that when that conference was getting ready to launch, before it started, we were at a resort because it was empty and they gave it to us for free to use because, nobody was out. I walked down the hallway, and at the end of this hallway was a statue of Buddha. And there's also a cross and this beautiful mixture of Christianity and Buddhism. And I stopped and I prayed. And then I went into the bathroom just to the right. And I didn't actually throw up, but I did lay on the floor and said, God, please don't let me cry, because the stress was extraordinary. We were either going to succeed big or we were going to fail massively. And we were going to fail massively in front of thousands of people around the globe. And I am so happy that event was successful and that we were able to support teachers over the next couple of weeks, making this big transition. But I also am mindful that there was a trigger that created a lot of stress in me. And just like any other human person and things you might be experiencing, when we have fear and when we have stress, our ability to think and be innovative starts to decrease and things get very narrow. And you're in education, so I know you're familiar with this student behavior management system, the escalation cycle. We see it in our IEPs as we look to support students with plans that will take them from a trigger to a place where they might peak, where they might run away. We know we have those kids that elope, that run out of the classroom, that look to escape. But we also know there's always that point of de-escalation and recovery and that place where we can re-engage. Well, this same thing happens with us as adults. We experience stressors and we have been experiencing extraordinary stressors, and those stressors on the human body are like threats. The adrenaline increases, the cortisol, the glycogen. And when we go to work, that stress can get really high because we are in the middle of a massive systems change. And we enter into a very similar stress response cycle as those students that we support in our programs at school who experience stressors in the classroom. And we need to be able to address these stressors in a way that we can still be here after the holiday break, after summer into next year, 3 years, 5 years, and the rest of our careers, because the experience we're gaining right now is invaluable to sustaining the efforts to change our education system as a whole. Because you felt this, I'm sure you have. I want to fight, right? There's a lot happening in the world right now. Whether we're talking about the social injustices in the world, the lack of broadband access, the getting the devices out to my staff, to my teachers, to my students, and I'm angry because it's not in place and it's not happening very easily. Or I want to run. Get me out of here. I quit, I'm done, I'm out, I need a break, let me take a week off, let me take a month off. I'll come back when this is all over because the stress is extraordinary. Or I want to hide. Let me just put my head down. Let me disappear just for a moment before I come back. Because the impact of that adrenaline, that cortisol on our bodies is forcing us to have a very human response. And being aware that we're in a stress response cycle is going to help us to stay in the game long term. So be cognizant of what in you activates that stress response cycle. And do you want to fight? Are you looking to flee? Are you looking to hide? What is it that can deactivate that response? So you get into that place of being restored and having the energy to continue to lead the work that is so important right now, because it will end. It is a cycle. Think about something you were really stressed about just a week ago. You had super anxiety about it. I had an event last week that had me dropping the F-bomb over and over and over again. And I have this fabulous sister circle. Veronica's in here today in the audience, and I sent a text to them about what had happened in a meeting. I was like, all I can do is drop the F-bomb. I am so angry. I just wanted to fight. And I knew I had to bite my tongue. I knew I had to be socially appropriate. And being socially appropriate and leading the way that one should with calmness was activating that stress response cycle in me. And after I got rid of all the F-bombs, I wanted to escape. I wanted to run away. I said, I don't want to deal with these people. But I know that I can't do that and lead. So I need to get to the end of that cycle. So understanding and working through the stress response cycle allows for some strategies to make us feel safe and secure again. And we can plan for those. We know we can breathe through those moments. And we also know that's often not enough. Finding somebody to laugh with, getting out and running it off or walking it off and saying, hey, I need a break because I need to go and get this energy out. I need to do that right now. Human connection and affection. Who is that person that you can get that 20-second hug from? And that's what the research shows us. It's not a quick hug. It's a 20-second hug. Do you have a significant other that can kiss you for 6 seconds? Not a quick kiss, but for 6 seconds. And really help drop those cortisol levels. Making that spiritual connection, that higher power that you know drives the work you do and has set you up for your calling to serve in education. Is it creative expression? Do you need to write? Do you need to sing? Do you need to draw it out? Go through the emotion, yell, cry, scream, call a friend and let it out. But make sure you have a plan in place as we continue to do this, because we don't want to burn out. We want to keep leading. And all of this information that you see right now comes from a book that I am loving and I can't recommend highly enough to you. It is called Burnout. You see it in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen by Emily and Amelia Nagasaki. Oh, they'll talk you through the response cycle and the science that you need to know and how to get through it, and understanding that whatever you're living in the moment, it will end and you can still be here to continue to do this work. Find a way to release that stress. Make a plan for it. Because we need to start moving now from responding to an emergency to leading proactively for what's next. And now I'm going to make those cortisol levels come right back up, because we need to talk about how do we lead. What mindset do we need to have? What's the work ahead of us? We need to have the mindset of being a restructuring officer, whether it's in our classrooms, our schools, or our districts. What is this going to look like moving forward? We are leading in a new era of education. What was last year is not now, and it will not be next year. And we can't just let it happen to us. We need to plan for it, and we need to be strategic. We need to make sure that our boards are ready and that they have the experiences to understand how to lead and make the right decisions. The same with the legislators who are running our country and making those policy decisions and advocating for the funding that we need. As the George Couros quote said at the beginning, and thank you, Jason Borgen, for sharing that one, if we haven't experienced it ourselves, we can't make those right decisions. So what are we doing right now to give boards, school boards, those experiences of learning and understanding what it looks like and feels like and needs to be for our students? Our superintendents need to be ready. And they take some hits from the community, because there are some that are all for it and there are others that are not. There are unions that are fighting with them, and people that want to come back to work and people that don't. And they need to also have that experience, because many of our superintendents also haven't attended classrooms or may not have taught with technology at the forefront of what they were designing for their students. The digital transformation has accelerated, and it's not going away. As a restructuring officer, how does that impact the way we do business in our schools? The acceleration of investment in technology has been tremendous. It was extraordinary to watch what happened last spring and over the summer when companies who have been out there and have had the ability to stand up connecting our communities came together and made it happen in a matter of weeks. Sadly, what happened was at the end of summer, those resources got pulled back. But we need to make sure that we're putting that pressure on the companies, the AT&Ts, the Verizons, to make sure that these resources are still being invested in our communities. And it can't just be about profit. It has to be about how are we supporting the success of the next generation. Identify where those practices are in our organization that can be scaled through the use of technology. And move from this crisis-fueled experimentation that we're in right now. And we're going to be in it a little bit longer, but start thinking now. What are we learning from this crisis-fueled experimentation? How are we taking advantage of this moment to experiment? Because the expectations are different. How do we identify those instructional practices that are happening right now in which we're seeing a high return on investment? Where are relationships being built? Where are connections being made? Where is the program working? What are the instructional practices that are engaging and resulting in increased student achievement? Identify them now. If they're having a high return on investment, we need to make sure they are incorporated in our practices when we have a more stable opportunity in which to teach again. What are the tools that are being most organically adopted across our schools, whether it's for teachers or classified staff, principals or district office administrators? What tools are folks going to organically? Vet them. Do they protect our data? Are they a risk to cybersecurity, or can we embed them in our systems as a course of practice? And take a look at the data points that you're able to collect right now. Understand that they're a transformational asset. What's happening? What numbers are increasing? The devices, the broadband, the infrastructure, the funding to allow it to happen? What tools are we seeing being used that are giving data points on how students are learning? That data is a transformational asset in which to help folks understand the changes that need to occur. Collect, analyze, and communicate that data far and wide with our boards, our superintendents, our district office administrators, CSBA, our legislators, because they're developing and implementing policies that impact how we do business. And always, always focus on the outcome. There are so many tools out there, but which of those tools allow the pedagogy to be the driver? Allow the desired outcomes to be the driver, and then support our educators in developing fluency in using those tools. So when we think of doing all of that, that stress response cycle can really increase because that's a lot. So if I'm going to be a restructuring officer and I'm going to call on my team to have the mindset of being a restructuring officer, I'm also going to work with my team to understand the response cycle so that nobody burns out, so that we understand how to handle the emotion while we lead tremendous transformational change. Because this young lady, she's going to be in our schools in about 3 years. And this is her experience at home. That's a child that is learning digitally right now. The little boy that we saw, He's going to be in our schools in 5 years. He was born during a global pandemic. That informs how he shows up to our classrooms. We need to be ready for them and their generation. And the fact that they will graduate in 2038 and 2040, they will retire in 2085, 2090. We need to teach them to be ready for the world that they live in. Thank you, everyone, for having me here today.
Thank you, Pam. Wonderful. Very, very inspirational. And I think you've hit a tone around, we hit a tipping point with educators, with students, and now it's time to unleash our creativity and innovation for leaders to make change in our educational paradigm and prepare them for a future that they don't know that exists yet. And we don't know either, but we can continue to try and develop strategies. So Pam, amazing presentation. Thank you.